Good morning to our viewers here in Nigeria, across the world, wherever you might be watching us from. Thank you for starting your week with us here on Breakfast Central on News Central Television. Remember that you can be a part of the conversation at any point. Simply tweet at News Central TV and share your thoughts with us on any of the conversations that we are having this morning. Welcome to the month of September as well. It's, of course, a month that promises so much for us here in Nigeria, including, hopefully, a refinery, the Port Harcourt refinery that the NNPC, of course, has been promising that will get started or will eventually start to refine petroleum products here in Nigeria. It has, of course, moved away from August. The initial promise was that it will start production in August, but obviously that didn't happen. So let's see what September brings for Nigerians. There's still loads of conversations concerning petrol scarcity. The NNPC, of course, is in the news this morning. It's one of the things that we will be talking about, as they have stated the possibility of an extension of the petrol scarcity across Nigeria. Nigerians are currently buying petrol between 800 to 1,000 to maybe even 2,000 naira in some parts of the country per litre. It is the highest amount that Nigerians have ever, in Nigeria's history, I believe, had to pay for petrol. And of course, many people have stated, their frustrations, their extreme frustrations with the fact that it seems to have just gone on for months or weeks now, maybe getting into months, and we do not necessarily see any urgency, in actions to at least do something about it. The Minister of Petroleum, of course, who is Mr. President, is currently not in the country, is in China. The, of course, head of the NNPC, the Minister of State for Petroleum, is also not saying anything. Nobody really is saying anything concrete as to how urgent it is to give Nigerians a breath of fresh air, to at least help them to get petrol easily at the petrol stations. And it, once again, is a huge shame that Nigeria, one of the world's largest oil producers, cannot have a seamless process by which its own citizens will be able to buy petrol in fuel stations. It's once again a huge shame, and the problem really is, it's not a new problem. It's just painful that we might just be seeing another 4 years where we do not get, to see proper steps being taken to fix Nigeria's oil sector. One excuse or the other. So it's one of the things that we will be talking about today, amongst many other things. If we move away from talking about the petrol situation, in Edo State, there's bits of drama here and there with regards to the Edo State elections, which are coming up in the month of September as well. Very, very distasteful statements made over the weekend by Adams Oshiomhole, the former governor of the state. It's one of the things that we'll be talking about this morning. Why Nigerian political discussions always need to, be on that level, the gutter level of conversations. These are some of the things that we'll be talking about this morning. I'm going to be joined by Olive. Good morning, Olive.
Good morning. Osage, thank you very much for being part of the show this morning. And I think that it's I'd like to pick up from where you left off. The gutter conversations and Nigerian politics have become. There's a video that went viral, a video of Adams Oshiomhole stating that, criticizing Mrs. Obaseki for allegedly criticizing their candidate, stating that their candidate doesn't have a wife, in a way, inferring that their candidate doesn't have a wife. And then he went further to make degrading statements, talking about how they don't even have children, that the Obasekis don't even have children, and that even if they couldn't have children biologically, they didn't even adopt children. And I thought that was the most distasteful video that the internet has seen in the longest time. Not only distasteful on the part of Adams Oshiomhole, distasteful on the part of Mrs. Obaseki as well. We've gotten to the point where we're now making political or gauging political leadership by people's marital status or their ability to be parents, which is lower than the gutters, and that's not really what politics should be about. It seems to us that I did tweet about it that these people think that Nigerians are a joke. They're taking Nigerians for a joke, because for you to go out there and your yardstick for measuring the capability of your political candidate is by whether or not they're married, or they have a wife, or they have children. That shows the level, and the way in which they maybe perceive Nigerians. These are not the things that Nigerians are asking for. It's also a reflection of themselves, what their values are, and what their priorities are. And I think that both of them deserve to give a public apology to each other. I just thought it was very distasteful.
Well, that's not going to happen, but two ways that I look at this, right? The first one is the fact that, which is a fact, that across the world, when you get yourself into politics, even in the United States, your political opponents will pick the slightest, tiniest thing as weapons to discredit you. They will dig into your past. They will dig into, if your cats died when you were in university and, maybe call you an animal hater, for societies where that works. These things will happen once you get into politics.
I agree.
So it's not necessarily strange to hear that people are going into the gutter, in order to discredit their opponents, right? But it doesn't take away the fact that it is completely distasteful, and it paints a picture of where, the Nigerian political conversations are. So like you've said, on both sides, from Governor Obasanjo's wife and Adams Oshiomhole, who should know better, as of course he's been a politician for a long time, is a former governor of the state. The reason you even are seeing him everywhere is because their candidate has refused to show up. Because if we had a candidate in Edo State for the APC who was everywhere on television, at the rallies, on radio, everywhere, showing himself, former Governor Oshiomhole wouldn't need to work this hard to be supporting him, to be speaking for him, and to be defending, their candidate. So that's the reason you're seeing Oshiomhole everywhere. Every 3 market days, he's on one interview or the other. But The point is, and of course, there's some other thing I should also mention. It's not the first time he's making a distasteful statement. I think there's one of the campaign rallies where he said his mother is Igbo, his wife is Igbo, or something. He said something, basically trying or seeming like he was trying to create the same hate for Igbo people tension in Edo State that was allegedly, not allegedly, it was obviously used during the Lagos State elections, and of course in the nationwide elections 2023. So it seemed like he was trying to do the same thing. I'm yet, and of course I would permit that I didn't watch the full video, but I saw the clip where he mentioned either his mother is Igbo or his wife is Igbo when they were campaigning. And it just sounded like pretty much the same tactic, which is try to make this person seem less worthy of political position because they have, links with an Igbo person.
And again, what I'm coming back to is, it is distasteful, it is gutter, and also an indication of our society and where we are and how we rate and value people based on their marital status again, and based on their ability to have children. When we should be a progressive society that should realize that people's worth should not depend or should not be determined on whether or not they have a partner. Because what we're doing is subconsciously pushing people. I know somebody who wanted to run for politics. I wasn't married. I had to make sure that they quickly got into a marriage because they needed to run for an office so people will take them seriously. We should be a progressive society that looks beyond that and looks beyond people's ability or their decision to have children. People can decide not to have children, and that's okay.
I agree. I also agree with that. And I think the thinking is, and it may be, like you said, should be thrown away. But the thinking is, your ability to manage a family and children, is the first sign that you will be able to manage, a society and all of that. That's the way the thinking is coming from. Anyway.
So many things to vent about. The weekend has been quite interesting, like Osalgi has said, from the fuel scarcity situation, the updates with the NNPC, and what the future might look like. We'll be talking about much later. To this, and even NYSC is another conversation, but we probably won't be taking that now.
Welcome to Breakfast Headlines, and let's start by telling you that the federal government has directed the Minister of State for Defense, Dr. Bello Matawalle, and other military chiefs to move to Sokoto State to tackle the menace of banditry, kidnapping, and terrorism in the northwest region. This is part of an intensified effort to restore peace and security in the area. Dr. Bello Matawalle stated commitment to flushing out Bello Turji and his gang, as well as other criminal elements terrorizing the region. The federal government said it is deeply concerned about the persistent threat posed by banditry and terrorism, and it is ready to deploy all necessary assets to ensure peace is restored to those communities. Matawale emphasized the need for urgent action against the terrorists to enable people to move freely. He assured the people of Sokoto, Katsina, Zamfara, and Kebbi states, as well as the entire northwest region, that security forces would leave no stone unturned in flushing out bandits. The Minister of State for Defense and other military chiefs are expected to supervise operations in Northwest and ensure the success of this intensified effort. And more than 10,000 people have been displaced, and farmlands and properties worth millions of naira have been destroyed following weeks of intense rainfall in Gumi local government area of Zamfara State. The Emir of Gumi, Hassan Lawal, made this known during an on-the-spot assessment visit by Governor Dauda Lawal. According to the Emir, more than 10,000 people have been affected. The governor sympathized with the flood victims and announced an immediate relief package, including 10,000 bags of assorted grains, mosquito nets, and blankets. He also pledged to address long-term flood management by constructing new drainage systems, repairing existing dams, and potentially building additional ones to prevent future disasters. Still in the news, the Nigerian Vice President Kashim Shettima says that the federal government's health sector reforms have secured over $4.8 billion in potential investments. He made this known during the commissioning and grand opening of Sahad hospitals in Abuja. The Vice President said this significant investment is part of the Tinubu administration's commitment to revitalizing Nigeria's healthcare system. He also outlined a comprehensive strategy aimed at addressing long-standing challenges and advancing Nigeria's healthcare system. Shettima said the health sector reforms under the Tinubu administration are supported by a robust roadmap designed to tackle persistent issues that have affected the system for decades. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, NDLEA, has seized narcotics valued at 17.9 billion naira in major operations at the Onne and Tinkan seaports in Lagos and Rivers. NDLEA spokesman Femi Babafemi said the haul included over 31 million pills of tramadol, 225 milligrams, and 730,000 bottles of codeine-based syrup. The seizures followed intelligence on shipments originating from India, prompting a 100% joint examination of the containers by NDLEA, Customs, and other security agencies. At the Tinkan port, Lagos, 350,000 bottles of codeine syrup were recovered from 2 containers on the 29th and 30th of August. Meanwhile, at Port Harcourt on airport, NDLEA operatives intercepted over 29 million tramadol pills and 380,000 bottles of codeine syrup from 3 containers on August 29th. Away from Nigeria now, Senegalese Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has accused his Israeli counterpart, Benjamin Netanyahu, of prolonging the war in Gaza for his own political survival and called for the isolation of Israel. Speaking at a rally in support of the Palestinian cause at Dakar's Grand Mosque, Sonko said Netanyahu's grip on power is reliant on the ongoing conflict and suggested the Israeli leader is willing to sacrifice countless lives to maintain his position.
Un Premier ministre dont le pouvoir aujourd'hui dépend de cette guerre, la survie politique dépend de cette guerre, et qui est prêt à marcher sur des milliers de cadavres pour rester Premier ministre et pour ne pas faire face à la justice de son pays. C'est ça les motivations. Il faut aujourd'hui rassembler tous ceux qui dénoncent cette injustice, travailler à une solution politique, qui est une solution d'isolement de l'État d'Israël. Isolement politique. Nous sommes dans un monde particulièrement hypocrite. Un monde de 2 poids, 2 mesures. Un monde où tous ceux qui nous chantent la démocratie et les droits de l'homme sont ceux aujourd'hui qui appuient Israël, qui l'arment, qui lui donnent les moyens de...
Also in the news, Algeria's finance minister has announced that the country has been approved from membership in the BRICS New Development Bank, NDB. The decision was made on Saturday and announced by NDB President Dilma Rousseff during a meeting in Cape Town, South Africa. In a statement released on Sunday, Algeria's finance ministry stated that joining the NDB the financial arm of the BRICS group, marks a significant step in Algeria's integration into the global financial system. The BRICS Bank, founded by Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, was established as an alternative to traditional international financial institutions such as the World Bank and the IMF. The bank has recently expanded its membership, welcoming countries including Egypt, the United Arab Emirates, Iran, and Saudi Arabia. And that's all on Breakfast Headlines. Let's now go back to Breakfast Central and continue with our top stories. I am Osaogie Ogbon.
Following the ongoing fuel crisis nationwide, filling stations have remained crowded in major mega fuel stations in Asaba, the Delta State capital, as motorists called for the immediate sack of the group managing director of NNPC, Mele Kyari. Although some filling stations were still shut, others continue to sell for as much as between 850 naira and 950 naira per litre. News Central's correspondent Austin Azu completes the report. All right, we're going to bring that report shortly, but just to mention that this is also a reality that we're seeing here in Lagos, Nigeria, and in different parts of the country, which is it's also some measure of a shame that for the past 2 months we've had fuel scarcity. Nothing has been said, nothing is being done about it. Different reasons or reactions have been given to the fuel scarcity. We've seen the NNPC initially talk about the weather conditions, mother-daughter vessel, logistics issues, and now they finally come out to make an admission we'll be talking about much later. But let's see what the reality of it is in Delta State, and when we'll come back, we'll speak some more about it.
There have been a biting scarcity of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, across the country for over a month, with the product selling for over 1,000 naira in some places before now. In Asaba, Delta State capital, the long queues remain at the major mega fuel stations within Asaba and environs.
We buy 950 for here, my brother. You buy 950 if na metal be correct metal, it will be the you carry them from here reach here, you don't finish.
We are buying at the cost of 815 euro. That's what we are buying, and the so cost is not easy.
While the pump price varies from one fuel station to another, some individuals prefer getting their products from a particular fuel station, irrespective of the price.
Why I buy for here now, be say, for one day my keke, it don't nearly finish, we dey go church. Out of emergency, sometimes they say 850. But if you hold you now, no option. No option. You must buy for the nearest place.
591, compared to some that are selling for 975, 880, and all that. So it's obvious. This one is cheaper. This one is cheaper. Outside their price, their quality is equally good.
Commuters and motorists continued to express their frustrations and anger over the continuous hike in products and called on the NNPC, which is the sole importer and supplier of the products in the country, to crash the price and make it available for Nigerians.
Everybody's suffering there. The country is very bad because of fuel. They use the money where we take the heat, they buy fuel. The thing is too much. We know the feed them make for our business again. Everything is very bad. If you work finish, you go use our money where we work to buy fuel. We know the feed the chop sell. What the feed they pay us rent.
Oh, the hardship in this country started from because of the high price of fuel.
They should sack the Mele Kyari NNPC boss. They should sack him out and bring a fresh blood. If you watch some analysis, they said NNPC has no business doing, has no business doing this. These are bottlenecks, bureaucratic bottlenecks that are stalling this. They should remove him there and put you. We are suffering in this country.
For the past few weeks, residents of Delta State have been going through harrowing experiences just to buy fuel to power their vehicles, tricycles, motorcycles, and generators. In Asaba, for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Thanks to Austin Azu for that report. Remember, the conversations, of course, are ongoing, but it's not just a conversation, it's mostly because this is the reality that many Nigerians are dealing with, looking for answers concerning the petrol scarcity. who should be blamed and who really understands that they must take responsibility for what the current, for what Nigerians are currently dealing with across the country. Buying petrol for the highest, like I said earlier, the highest that they've ever had to purchase, a liter of petrol, and still struggling to buy it.
Right. I think what's even more shocking is the conflicting reports we seem to have gotten from the NNPC. So initially there was an update about them saying it was a logistics issue. I just wish they had been more honest from the jump to let Nigerians know this is the real position of what exactly is happening. They initially said it was logistics issue because of weather conditions. They were not able to transmit from mother vessel to daughter vessel. We moved on from that. That lasted for a long time. In all of this, the Minister of Petroleum was silent, still is silent. Then now there were the media reports of NNPC owing $6.8 billion, which they came out to deny.
Yeah.
Now that they've denied this, it's interesting to see that just yesterday, they've now admitted to owing petrol suppliers and that there's a financial strain. And Nigerians are wondering what this will mean because according to another report that we've seen, they're not getting enough products because they've not been able to pay off their debt. So if they're not getting products, we're not getting products, what does this mean in terms of availability of products? It just feels like there's been a lot of shady dealings going on, or there's not been a lot of sincerity.
Yeah.
And again, the Minister of Petroleum has been, still is silent regarding this.
Yeah, I mean, the key thing, that I see is just lack of clarity and lack of sincerity. And if there was, an open conversation with regards to what the NNPC really is doing and its affairs, then we probably would understand better. But like you've, properly detailed, the explanations have been different. Initially it was mothership to daughtership or child ship. I don't know how they said it, ship to ship, the mothership to the baby ship. That was the initial problem, and now, they're saying it is actually a financial problem.
That is after declaring a 3.3 trillion naira profit.
Profit, exactly.
So how do
we
juxtapose that declaration of profit with this financial strain?
Very true.
We're talking
Very
about
true.
now.
And this is Nigerians hoping that in another 2 weeks, there wouldn't be a new reason why the petrol scarcity has lasted that long. But this one has gone on for so long, and it doesn't seem to be, ending anytime soon. We just continue to struggle every week to buy petrol. I bought, about 30,000 petrol over the weekend, and it barely gave me anything. And, this is the new reality of Nigerians.
Our earning power is reducing because everyone is struggling to buy petrol, both including you as well as the people you're purchasing from. So they would reflect it in their goods and services. So even if we make any form of progress with inflation, to say, food inflation got better, this gains we seem to be making, we're losing because of the fuel scarcity. I mean, it's really, we'll look into this conversation much later, and we'll also hope that you share with us your thoughts at News Central TV. We're going to break now, and when we come back, we have another conversation looking at the federal government's directive to peg the age of West African Examination Council sitters to 18 years. We'll be right back.
The federal government's directive to peg the age of West African Examination Council and National Examination Council candidates at 18 years has sparked concern and criticism among stakeholders. National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools and the Nigerian Union of Teachers have expressed concerns that the policy may lead to delaying and denying some students access to higher education.
Nigerians took to X last week to share their disapproval of this development, with some accusing the minister of being out of touch with modern education. Medical doctor and education advocate Dr. Charles Marindoti is a displeased Nigerian and has called on state governors and parents to reject the policy. Joining us is medical doctor and education advocate Dr. Charles Marindoti. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning, sorry again, early. Thank you for having me. Thanks everybody at home.
All right. We know that you're not pleased with this as well, just like the parents haven't been pleased with this. We've also seen that the NUT has not been pleased with this, even though in an interesting twist of events, it would seem that ASU, which is plagued with many challenges, seems to throw their weight behind the decision of the minister. But we'll come to that later. We've seen reports that you've threatened legal action if the minister insists on implementing the age limit. Is this true? And, talk to us about that.
Yes, I definitely have been shopping for lawyers. And my organization, we have members who have children in secondary schools who will be affected by this, and so we are definitely coordinating and watching out for what's going on. But I'll try to give a little bit of my own background just to explain why I am passionate about this. By the time I took my JAMB, April, I think 15, 2004, I was 14-year-old. My 15th birthday, I was in a WAEC exam, and not only did I graduate as the joint best student in myself, I also had the best JAMB. I got into medicine, Bafemi Awolowo University on merit, and that age that I was never affected me. Now, by the minister's, what's it called, as a policy, I will have to wait 3 years. Who knows if I would have gone into crime, stopped education. There's this momentum that actually comes from progressing from secondary school to the university. We have people who should be making policies to, help our children learn, to ensure that our children learn to help ourselves, but they are trying to create a situation whereby our children can get into a form of learned helplessness, whereby they lose their, comfort or their comfort and confidence in themselves, in their abilities to progress. There is nothing wrong with a child going to school if they have the intellectual ability to, but just to be able to put a little bit of a perspective on this, I went to do a little bit of a research about the current Minister of Education. I saw that he graduated from law in university as a 29-year-old. So if you do the maths, 5 years in school, that means he probably passed JAMB around the age of 24. So I can understand why he might feel this is a plausible policy relative to me that finished WAEC at the age of 15. By the time I graduated at 23, despite 2 years of ASU strike, I was still younger than when the minister got into university. So I can understand this diverging view, but just because it was an optimal does not mean it should delay the prodigies that we have in our secondary school. We should allow children grow based on their own abilities. Let's take a global point of view to these things. In the United States and most countries where the government takes good care of public education and about 90% of people go to public schools, they have policies about when they can begin kindergarten, which is age 5. And even during the course of their education up until they finish high school, which is equivalent to our secondary school, a child that is smart gets pushed ahead. If they see that you are smart, they start giving you the work of the next class. If you are getting, they push you, they keep on pushing you. So the whole thing that he is trying to do, even if there was any merit to it, you have to go and begin it, starting from primary school, and try to say, okay, well, let us encourage students to get to this age before they get to primary school.
I think that's what the issue is. A number of them have complained about the fact that parents are pushing children. A number of us remember that there were children who had to go through something we refer to as double promotion back in the day. I don't know if that still happens. But I'm going to quote the ASU chairman, who had said, ASU has in previous times shown their support for this. But even though the National President Academic Staff Union of Universities, Professor Emmanuel Oshodeke, maintained that ASU had not yet discussed the matter, but stated on a personal note that children should follow the standard academic progression, 6 years in primary school, 6 years in secondary school, and then move on to university at the age of 18. He questioned the rush to enter university, stating, why are we focusing on university at such a young age? How many years do you spend in university? For most courses, it's 4 years. For medicine, it's 5. We can't reduce these durations. So he's saying that students or pupils or whatever should be allowed to go through the education system as is. But some people have criticized it, saying it's not factoring in the fact that, for example, last year, ASU was on strike for 8 months. They're on industrial strike for months, and students end up having to go to school for maybe 5-6 years for it, an initially designed 4-year course. So let's talk about this perspective of rushing children through school. Where does the bulk of the blame lie, and who should be making the adjustments?
Well, there is no such thing as rushing a child who has the intellectual ability to go through it. If a child is smart enough that he does not need to stay at a level of education, there's no need to force him there. You are wasting his talent. But this is not the norm. Most of my, almost 100% of my friends were at least 2 years or more older than me, my classmates. So that is to say, most people normally would graduate at the age of like 17. If you do it from like the 6334, what's it called, KEDA. But people do even take. I can remember people used to take WAEC at SS1, SS2, just as in preparation. WAEC is also a private exam. So if ASU wants to, talk about these policies, they should be more concerned about the injustice that they are doing to Nigerian students, whereby people go through universities without acquiring the skills that they need to function in life. I was talking to my cousin who is in university. They were made to do engineering drawing, but something that you do on a computer, use AutoCAD, and even AI has a lot of work that he has done that, has advanced in that phase. They are still making them use pencil and ruler. Why is ASU not looking at ways to revitalize their curriculum so that they can produce employable, useful, and very economically advantageous graduates, and not these, teeming, redundant Nigerian graduates that we are producing? Even if you look at the programming language that they teach people in computer and all of that, I know a lot of my friends that had about 3 extra years because of a programming language called Fortran. Fortran is a programming language that never got off. It was never used. It has no, it has no use for you in the labor market. But people are having extra years in your part 2, part 1. They make you do classes that you don't need. These are things that ASU needs to focus on how the professors themselves can start making money with research from from industry, and not as opposed to just being a bunch of panhandling association going to federal government to strike all the time. I also inherited a year of strike before I got into university, and during my course of university, I had another year of strike added to it. So this is probably part of what is making some mothers a little bit more anxious. But the most important thing is to focus on the process. You cannot just say you want to go and ban. That is very simple. And we need people with sound minds and good hearts to be making policies.
All right, Dr. Marindoti, I'm sure that the minister as well is, aware of Nigeria's numbers of out-of-school children, and I believe that should really be the focus of Professor Tahir Maman at this point. Dr. Marindoti, thank you very much for sharing with us. Let us know how your lawsuit goes, if you will be suing, and we'll definitely like to have another conversation at that time. Thanks for your time this morning.
Thank you very much.
All right. And once again, the main focus, I believe, for the Nigerian Minister of Education should be reducing Nigeria's out-of-school children, and the number of out-of-school children in the country. We'll, of course, take a very short break, and when we come back, we continue with our conversations this morning. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory and former River State Governor Nyesom Wike has warned against attempts to take over the People's Democratic Party structure in River State. He threatened to cause a political crisis in any PDP governor state if they interfere with the party's affairs in Rivers.
This comes after the PDP Governors Forum expressed support for Governor Siminalayi Fubara and called for a review of the party Congress outcome to restore his leadership role. Wike instructs PDP governors to stay clear of Rivers party affairs.
They said that we are finished. They are finished. Not while we leave. Anybody will take away the structure of PDP from us. Not while we leave. And let me tell people, I hear that there are some governors, who say they will take away the structure and give back to somebody. I pity those governors because I'll put fire in their state. When God has given you peace, you say you don't want peace. Then whatever you see, you take.
Joining us to discuss this is the former Deputy Speaker, Rivers State House of Assembly, Honorable Leyi Kwani. Good morning and thank you for joining us.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
And we also have joining us this morning the Publicity Secretary, Rivers APC Caretaker Committee, Mr. Chibike Ikenga. Good morning, Mr. Ikenga. Thank you for joining us. Welcome, gentlemen, to the show.
Thank you. Pleased to have me.
All right, let's start with Mr. Leikwane. Honorable, you've heard the utterances of the Minister of the FCT, the former governor of Rivers State, who in some measure seems to have a lot of influence. He doesn't want to let go of the structure that he speaks about in Rivers State. What exactly is going on, and how is it that Nyesom Wike seems to have this much influence and is still holding on to it, even though there's already a governor in the state?
Good morning, my brother Ikenga. Nice seeing you this morning. Well, I think there is something that is wrong fundamentally with our democracy. Over the years, we seem to be producing stronger personality and not working on strengthening our institutions. So there seems to be superhuman beings as against all our democratic infrastructure that is supposed to be stronger. So I think the minister as one of those super individuals that our democratic process may have produced from 1999 up to now, is coming from that angle. And considering that the Honorable Minister is a lawyer by training and knowing the implication of all of those utterances, I am not here to draw condemnation, but to add a word of caution that all of this is not helpful to our democracy. It's not helpful in any bit, because you can't go all out threatening people or that you are going to set fire in their state and all of that. It's unbecoming. It's not expected of such a highly placed citizen.
All right, Mr. Kenga, let's have you also share your thoughts. Pretty much the same question, but also speak about this political structure in Rivers State that needs protection by all means from Nyesom Wike. Tell us about your thoughts concerning his statement, and then about the political structure that he might be referring to.
Okay, thank you once again for having me. I want to say that politics is about structure, and the Minister of the FCT has been a consummate politician. He has been there from 1999, like the former DS did say. He is a very strong politician. I remember that he's also a foundation member of the PDP. And also recall that when PDP was totally collapsed, he came, he used his contacts, he used whatever resources at his disposal, both human and material, to ensure that PDP was rebuilt. So these governors who are making all these unguarded utterances, particularly tilting to one side, it's unfortunate, because at the time this crisis broke out, the governors were supposed to quickly meet with the governor of Rivers State, Governor Nyesom Wike, and his benefactor, and reconcile them, allow them to make compromises for peace to be in their party. But they chose to sit back, to watch, to see that Rivers State, our dear state, is in turmoil, and then we are deprived of development. But now, the crisis has snowballed into a greater inferno. The Minister of the FCT is a strong politician like this, and everybody knows. And politics is about structure. And this is the issue. He has continued to say that the structure is the structure. This is the same structure that produced the governor, Governor Nyesom Wike. So why didn't the leaders and governors of PDP come together to try to reconcile them? So
you're saying that other governors. So what you're saying is that other governors, in the PDP should have left, their main focus, which is their states, and then be moving to Rivers State to mediate between a crisis where the former governor of the state and the current governor refuse to grow up and focus on development in Rivers State, which should be the focus of Governor Nyesom Wike, and of course the FCT should be the focus of Governor Nyesom Wike. So governors from other states now should leave their responsibilities and then come and help mediate between these two adults, because they, of course, can't find a level ground amongst themselves. Is that what you're saying, or what you're advising?
Excuse me, did I hear you say they refuse to grow up? I want to be clear on that.
Yeah, I mean, if they've been fighting for months.
That statement, that's very insulting. You don't talk to people like that. Governor of Rivers State refused to grow up. The FCT minister refused to grow up. Is that how you're trained in your
if you have two governors who have been fighting each other for months and ignoring the development of river states, which should be their focus, which you clearly said. Isn't that childish behavior on both of them?
I still insist. I think that you need to be cautioned. There are other terms you can use. You can say if they have refused to agree and understand the fact that there is need for development, that's more respectful. You can't come and say that those adults who are nearly up to be your father, that they refuse to grow up. You have to address the governor. Can you address your
Permit me to interject at this point, Mr. Ikenga.
Mr. Ikenga.
Would you be okay if we said that these two people need to realize that they haven't prioritized the needs of the people who put them in office at different times?
I agree with you. And let me I agree with you completely. That's better.
All right,
no.
Please go ahead.
Okay.
Now, it is, responding to it. Responding to it completely is that there is a political
hold on, Mr. Lee.
There is a political disagreement. And like I said earlier, the governors of the PDP ought to have intervened to ensure that there is reconciliation and peaceful coexistence, which will return us to proper development of the state. However, the governors took sides. And now, because they took sides, they have interfered on one side and no reconciliation. And then the Minister of the FCC has every right to ask them to stay clear and allow them to play the politics that is ongoing. And that if they continue to do so to create crisis in the state, that he was going to replicate them in their state. Fair and square.
All right. Mr. Lay, you wanted to say something. Mr. Lay.
Yeah. If you are looking for a PDP spokesperson on this platform, then I am the wrong person. I am here as a Rivers State man, as an elder of the state, to put it as it were currently in the state, because I also contested the governorship election 2023, and while some of us have decided to collapse our structure and join Governor Sim, is informed by the part of the developmental stride that he has taken on so far. So using the word not growing up or that is leaving the issue of development is out of it completely. There can never be two governors of a state at the same time. We all know Governor Sim as the governor of Rivers State currently. Nyesom Wike has had his 8 years and is the current minister of the FCT. So all good Rivers sons and daughters are focused on how to deepen development and partnering with Simpubara on his efforts so far. So the issue of not focusing on development as far as this current governor is concerned is neither here nor there. Rivers State has moved on beyond the election, and we have so much to show
but isn't it
by way of what Sim has been doing so far?
And I can see the sense in which you would say that, because many would agree that Governor Sim Fubara would love to have, maybe he should have been given the opportunity. I don't know if given the opportunity is the right word, but should be allowed to be governor of the state without interference. In this case, from a former governor who ought to be facing the FCT, where he's now been placed as minister. So what is it about Nyesom Wike that makes him all so powerful? Some have argued that the PDP should have thrown him out of the party for what they refer to as anti-party activities. But again, we've seen time and time again where he's been very clear about not being, not leaving the PDP, staying there. And many have said that he, in a way, is bigger than the party. So I want us to have the conversation about the statements that he's made. He said, for the governors who are throwing their support behind Governor Sim Fubara, that he will set fire to their estates. What does setting fire to the estates mean? And we've seen calls for him to be invited and interrogated on what that means. Honorable Kwani, can you talk to us about what that means, and if that's a statement that should be allowed to sit lightly, or should be he should be invited to be to explain what he means by that? And I'd ask the both of you.
Yeah, well, I stated earlier that I am not speaking for the PDP. I am speaking as a Rivers son. I'm speaking as somebody that is interested in the well-being of the Rivers people. And when it comes to that statement of setting fire, I have stated earlier that the Honorable Minister of the FCT is a lawyer by training. And of course, he should be able to appreciate the weight of those statements that they are unbecoming of his office and they are threats. And we all, we open our legal books, know where all of that should take us to. So if the necessary agencies of government who were there that day should be able to look at, review all of that and do what they are supposed to do.
All right. I want to bring in Mr. Kinga once again. If this continues for the length of time that Simfo Bara is governor, and River State, somehow, some way, fails to achieve the best that Simfo Bara maybe would have been able to give to the state, will the people of River State be frustrated with Governor Nyesom Wike?
Okay, quickly, let me address the earlier question, then come to yours. The issue is that former Governor Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, did not threaten anybody. He did say that if the governors, or if some of the governors of PDP continue to interfere in the political ongoings in River State, that what that means is that they will be trying to create crisis between the Governor Simfo Bara, and himself, and creating problems for PDP. And that if they do so, and if they continue to do so, that he will do the same in their own states. And that he does have the capacity to do so in their own states. That was what he said. He did not threaten anybody. He told them, it's a statement of fact that if you do this in my state, and if you continue to do this in my state, I will do so also in your own state.
No, he said he will put fire. He said he will put fire in their states. That's the exact word that he used.
Creating crisis in a state, creating crisis in his own state, River State, in the PDP, and are putting fire. It's not creating crisis. Clear. That is what it is. If you create crisis in my own state, I say I will put fire in your own state. And remember, he said when he does that, you lose concentration on governance and you have political crisis also. He said so. Take it in details. That's what he said. And also, let me respond finally. Now, on the issue of development in River, there is no doubt that the political crisis between the Governor Simfo Bara and his benefactor, Chief Nyesom Wike, has slowed down completely governance. The governor has been distracted. There's no doubt about that. The governor is trying his best, but his best is not good enough in view of the fact that so many people are now seeing the governor and seeing the River State as a means of lining their pockets. Now they come to tell him we have, just like those 10 governors, they're depending on Governor Fubara to fund some of the activities because they believe River State has humongous treasury. So that's what it is. That's the challenge we have in the state. Because of this crisis, there is no doubt that River State is not performing optimally.
Yeah, and that's what I'm asking. So if after 4 years, Simfo Bara is not able to give 100% of himself to River State, will the people of River State, including yourself, be frustrated with Governor Wike for not allowing Simfo Bara to concentrate on the work that he's been elected to do?
No, you cannot say it is Governor Wike that will be blamed for misgovernance or inadequate governance or inability of the governor or the government to provide social services as required by his election. It is not so. It is the inability of the governor and his benefactor to find a means of reconciling in the sense that reconciliation is about give and take. Look, let's stay away from this zero-sum game where the winner takes all and the loser loses all. These are some of the crises. These are some of the problems that lead to the crisis. All we require is that the governor will give him some, and then his benefactor will also give him some, and then there will be peace. And for those who call themselves PDP governors,
give him some what?
Who I believe
give him some what exactly?
Sorry?
Give him some what?
If there are disagreements, if you recall, the president intervened and gave presidential proclamation of peace, items that will be taken for peace to return. Remember that the president asked that the presidential proclamation for peace asked that budget be presented to the properly constituted house and that impeachment move against the governor be withdrawn. These are some of the give and take that are required to ensure that there is peace.
All right. Let's quickly take a look at that video again, and we'll come back to the conversation where former Governor Nyesom Wike was speaking about the political structure in River State.
They said that we are finished. They are finished. Not while we live. Anybody will take away the structure of PDP from us. Not while we live. And let me tell people, I hear that there are some governors, who say they will take away the structure and give back to somebody. I pity those governors because I'll put fire in their state. When God has given you peace, you say you don't want peace.
All right, just wanted us to reiterate that video again so that we all can hear exactly what was being said. And just to double check again with you, Mr. Ikenga, that again, you don't see anything wrong in what former Governor Nyesom Wike has said. Whilst to respond to that, I want to ask you what your thoughts would be regarding those who say that Governor Nyesom Wike is not being very reasonable with how he's handling matters in Rivers State, because whilst he was in office, what he's doing now, he wrestled power away from the hands of the one who was there before him. He was allowed, or he took it by force and became governor, and there wasn't as much interference from Rotimi Amechi, and now he should step back and allow Governor Sim Fubara to do his job as the acting governor of the state. What would your response to people who argue about that? What would your response be?
Okay, I think that you don't have the information properly. When Nyesom Wike was governor of Rivers State, Rotimi Amechi, through the instrumentality of the federal government, interfered greatly, fought him greatly.
Maybe what I wanted to reward, maybe what I meant to say was that he fought his way through. So you would assume that somebody who had to fight his way through will be able to understand the principles of stepping aside, especially because before he stepped out, he mentioned in one of the Thanksgiving services, I remember seeing him saying that when he's done with his time, he's done with his time, and he would not meddle with the affairs of the state when he's out.
Okay, let me tell you, he's a politician. Just like the DS in your studio and myself, we are politicians. It's about interests. He is protecting the interests of those who follow him. Mind you, the governor of Rivers State, Governor Sim Fubara, is part of his team, but they have disagreed. So having disagreed, people should aim towards reconciliation. But let me tell you something. When you play that video, what former governor and FCT minister said is that I hear that they say they want to take my structure and give to somebody. And that if they do so, since they say he is finished, that he's not the one that is finished, that the ones who are finished, that he will replicate same in their own states. Let me say finally that Governor Nyesom Wike did not, former Governor Nyesom Wike and FCT minister did not say anything that is against the law. All he was doing is to fight to protect his interests and the interests of those who follow him.
I mean, but that's where the problem is. And I'm sorry, Honorable Lee Connie, we're going to bring you in a bit. You probably have to answer both. Both of you to answer this one. But this is where the problem is. We've heard a politician say that he will put fire in other states where he is not governor of, where he doesn't necessarily have any political relevance in those states, but he's threatening to put fire. And so should any politician have that level of authority and audacity to threaten fire? So if Minister Nyesom Wike has issues with 15 states across the country, should he be allowed to put fire in 15 states across the country simply for his own political satisfaction and to protect his own political structure? That's really where the issue is, Mr. Ikenga.
The issue is that it was conditional. He said, if you create crisis in my state, some of the governor, he said some, but you are grouping all of them. He said some. And then he said, if you create crisis in my state through PDP, by threatening to take my structure, I will also do so in your own state. Conditional.
Well, he didn't say I will also do so in your own state. He said I'll put fire. Honorable Kwame, let's have you respond.
No, he said that he would create crisis in your state as well. He said so.
I stand by what Usman Dan Podio said. Conscience is an open wound. Only the truth can heal it. Let us not try to embellish simple statement that was made on that occasion. I have stated earlier that there are a lot of supermen that our democracy has produced from 1999. who are not amenable, who are not teachable to the rules of this game. And for whatever reason, River State, nobody is bigger than River State. It's all about the interest of this state that Governor Sim Fubara has been trying to put at the front burner. And there can never be two governors at the same time. Our brother and minister of the FCT has had his good time of 8 years. And he cannot also think that he can come back to have a top term. So Governor Sim Fubara is in the saddle of the administration of River State now. So that fact, we must come home with that fact. Right. The issue of the minister saying he will put fire in some of the states is absolutely uncalled for. And I think by now, the minister, as a law-abiding Nigerian and as a lawyer by training, should be called to order to retract all of these statements because it is very, very inflammatory and will not do our democracy any good.
All right.
River State has moved beyond where we are in 2023, and we are focused on developing the state and taking the state to where it is be. It is beyond the issue of PDP or APC. That's why you see a lot of us have collapsed our structure and partnering with him in order to ensure that River sons and daughters enjoy the dividends of our democracy.
All right. I think my final question will be to Mr. Achibike Ikenga. You're the Publicity Secretary, Rivers APC Caretaker Committee, and from our conversation, you've thrown a lot of weight and support behind Nyesom Wike. In a way, you don't seem to see, what anything that he's done really being wrong here. Are you not worried about your party maybe not coming into power in Rivers State?
Well, the issue we are discussing here, we are not discussing governance, whether the Governor Fubara is performing or not performing. That's not what we're discussing here. What we are discussing is about PDP State Congress, wherein there is a seeming disagreement between former Governor Nyesom Wike, the FCT minister, and some governors of the PDP, particularly with respect to the Congress. So whatever the former Governor Nyesom Wike talked about the Congress, I support him in total because he has to protect his own interests as well, particularly looking at what governors who are from outside the state are beginning to plan, the conspiracy. That's what he's trying to.
And I hear you. I hear you, Mr. Ikenga. But what I'm asking is, are you in support of the PDP still remaining in power in River State, or are you maybe anticipating that the APC will take over in the next elections?
No, the APC will win PDP in River State. APC will win PDP in River State. We are putting our house in order. We are going to defeat them come local government election when properly conducted, as well as the state elections.
All right.
Former Governor Nyesom Wike doesn't seem like he's going to allow that to happen, but we'll see how it goes. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Mr. Achibike Ikenga and Honorable Leyi Kwane, thank you for your time with us this morning.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
All right.
Good morning. Papers this morning and share with you the major stories making headlines across Nigeria. We're joined this morning by public affairs analyst Theophilus Akatuba. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, sir.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to join you this morning.
All right. Let's kick off with this Nigeria newspapers, see what we can find over there. Showing it's a lot of interesting ones. Yes, it says federal government to invest $800 million in power sector. Minister Adelabu says generation capacity will increase to 6,000 megawatts by December. Laments 59% of industries in Nigeria are off-grid due to epileptic supply. Steer clear of Rivers PDP or face the consequences. Wike warns party's governors. State Congress elects Chukwuemeka as chairman. If you remember, of course, the statement is, I will put fire in your states. That's exactly the statement that was made. Edo gubernatorial Oshomole Obaseki's wife in verbal exchange. Nigerians outraged over descent into gutters by gladiators. 18 years exam age limit. Federal government playing with crisis, says Sanu. Policy would cause setback in education sector, says stakeholders. And also this morning, for scarcity, we are facing financial challenges, NNPCL declares. Away from this Nigeria, let's go to the Daily Independent newspapers. and share with you the stories over there. Daily Independent this morning says, I think it should be on your screen in a second, Nigerian Airlines banned from, well, flying, is it? The Daily Independent now, or I think maybe the Punch. But our next report comes next. Okay, Daily Independent says Nigerian Airlines banned from flying to U.S. Experts offer solutions. FAA delists Nigeria from Category 1 status countries. Hope of air peace and other aspiring indigenous carriers dashed. Serap sues Akpabio and Abbas for fixing National Assembly allowances and running costs. We could also find here, petrol price may increase as NNPC admits facing financial strain due to supply costs. Tinubu arrives Beijing for Africa Cooperation Summit. And also, Matawale CDS service chiefs to storm Sokoto to flush out bandits in Northwest. Top of the screen on the Daily Independent, banks kick may lose 10 trillion naira to CBN directive on dormant accounts. Volatility, profits taking drag NGX performance down 1.22% in August. And our final newspaper this morning is the Punch newspapers. And very quickly on the Punch this morning, petrol scarcity to worsen as an NPCL admits $6 billion debt. Debt to petrol suppliers has caused financial strain. PMS supply threatened, says the NNPC. Dangote refinery, petrol ready for rollout. And also power generation down by 1,400 megawatts as discos reject allocations. Nigeria has the highest rate, or second highest rate of food insecurity. That is from Bill Gates. Hunger protest, federal government arraigns activist British ally today. All right, I think we could just stop here for now and get into the conversations. Let's start with I think, we just finished talking about Rivers State, so we might as well just start with that. The statements made by former Governor Nyesom Wike towards other PDP governors based on the interference in the Rivers State crisis.
Well, PDP over the years have ceded the power, the strength of that party in the hands of Wike, and it was quite beneficial at the time. And now the same man has turned against the party, and the party is in disarray because he's no longer holding the party together, and everyone is trying to find his place. And the party is struggling for survival. And, because Wike is not one who fights shyly. He fights openly and directly. And many governors do not want to get into his war books or war zone. And so I see Wike as a very interesting politician in Nigeria that we need to study closely, and how he's able to determine what should happen, get what should happen, and even threatened other governors from coming to, so that we can determine the outcome of affairs in that state in the manner he wants.
Yeah. But doesn't that paint a very dangerous, a very saddening, or sickening picture, rather, of where Nigerian politics is generally?
No, I think sometimes we are too hard on ourselves. If you follow the American politics, powerful men also exist there. People that are feared. You hear of the Republicans who no one want to go against Donald Trump, even while he was out of office. And so it is part of human developmental experience. And so Wike is one at this time on the throne in the PDP, and the PDP haven't surrendered their powers and a lot of their to him because it was beneficial, are finding it hard to wrestle the power from him. And this is what is playing out. He is the most successful politician in the last election as a person, not his party, because he determined what happened in Rivers. He gave governorship to himself, gave the presidency to another party, became a minister in the ruling party. So he, in fact, aggregately, he must be someone that we should study with great interest. And is one of those people I never, because I knew that he has the potential to do this kind of thing to that party. I really never liked him, but anytime I speak, I had too many people against me. He was a star at the time. He was one who went to do what the PDP wanted, and it was achieved. Now the PDP is a victim of his own creation.
Well, good luck to them. We'll probably come back to this again as we go on.
Invited to come and speak. Do you think that those statements were in any way insightful? Because we've seen a number of Nigerians on X who are saying that journalists are being picked and people who are tweeting or sharing their thoughts on certain matters are being picked by the DSS. But if someone brazenly comes out to threaten to put fire in a state, he should be invited by the DSS.
Of course, the DS. Sometimes if we want to run a proper country, the idea of the president giving instruction to security agencies to do their work makes it that we are not yet running a proper country. The DSS should always be proactive. If they see that maybe they might see it's just a political rhetorics and it's nothing to it. They might just say it's one of those weakest rantings or one of those weakest antics, political antics. Sometimes they might not want to act upon it and see it as one of those many things we hear in politics. During political times, I think they seem to get away with a lot of things.
Well, anyway, we have a call from Nasarawa. Good morning. Thank you for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Hello, good morning to everyone in the studio.
Good morning.
Morning.
Yeah. I am particularly worried about the issue of fuel scarcity and the corruption that is going on in the NNPC, so to speak. Why I say there's a corruption going on is the fact that we seem not to know what is really happening. Today they will tell us refinery will work. Tomorrow they will shift it to September. Right from last year, they've been shifting this issue of making the refineries to work. And even the only refineries that we have that want to start producing, the Dangote refinery, second largest in the whole world, they are frustrating the effort. By now, I think something needs to be done in that NNPC, especially in view of the fact that when the fuel price goes down, the price of everything will definitely go down, and there will be meaningful things for Nigeria to achieve. Now, they are claiming that $6 billion debt. They were equally saying that they will transfer the refinery to private sector. I hope it's not a case of trying to give contractors such that they will not be collecting kickbacks with a way to keep embezzling money. Honestly, something needs to be done as a matter of urgency in this petroleum sector. We have crude, we have everything, and we are suffering for this. It's not supposed to be. And as it is now, if they cannot do that and they take care, and maybe as a matter of urgency, as it is said, they should sack those that are not performing. And honestly, it's just frustrating. Why will we continue to be like this? And common man cannot even enjoy common things. Imagine common spaghetti we used to buy 200 and something naira. It's now 1,000 plus in the market. So also everything like that, hyperinflation. Where are we going in this country?
Tribe, thank you very much for calling and sharing your thoughts regarding that. And I think that's the next story we should touch on. The Punch does, that's the big story on the Punch. Petrol scarcity set to worsen as NNPCL admits 6 billion naira debt. If you recall, I think on the 18th of August, NNPC had done a press release denying or debunking the media reports that they were owing $6 billion. It's been one story or the other, like our last caller just said. First it was logistics issue, mother-daughter vessel. Later they said we heard the rumors about the reports about NNPC owing. They came out to debunk it. Then they now came further to declare 3.3 trillion naira profits to show that NNPC is doing well. And now they're coming to now tell us that they are admitting the 6 billion naira debt. What does this mean for us as a nation?
Well, they haven't admitted any figures.
They haven't admitted any figures. They've just admitted to owing. They admitted to a financial strain. So I think my question would be, what does that say of the NNPC and what does that mean? But before you answer, let's take this call from Lenny calling from Abuja. Good morning, Lenny. Thank you for calling.
Good morning, Olive. Good morning, Uzag.
All right, please go ahead.
I want to quickly talk about this weak tyranny. This thing. Like I listened to Wike yesterday, and goosebumps just ran into my throughout my body. I say we put fire in people's states, like not River State, somebody's states, and people are quiet, and people were even clapping hands for him. Like elderly people were clapping hands for him. This is a shame. That is a shame. It's a very shameful thing that we are living in a country that one person can threaten states like Akwa Ibom, River State, comprised of millions of people, just one person, because he's the minister of the FCC, and people are signing it, clapping for him. And for NNPC, they should keep on stopping Nigerians. It's okay. I don't even know what to say, but it's okay. God will see all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Lenin.
So just to highlight NNPC, they didn't admit to the figures. According to the press release, they said they've acknowledged recent reports in national newspapers regarding the company's significant debt to petrol suppliers. This financial strain has placed considerable pressure on the company and poses a threat to the sustainability of fuel supply. So meaning we are in for the queues for a long haul.
Of course, you see, economy doesn't play politics. Figures, you will be disgraced eventually, whatever lie you tell. The day Andrew Ngelale came on television and said the petrol prices will not go up more than this, I knew that we're back to a life of uncertainty. And then Nigerians feel very happy each time the petrol prices don't move. And you say that you've created a deregulated economy or subsidy is gone and your prices remain stagnant. Nigerians love to enjoy without knowing the cost of the enjoyment. And government easily deceived them. We were playing politics with if the subsidy is gone, petrol prices cannot remain the same.
Yeah.
And so once they remain the same, somebody has to pay. And we shouldn't be surprised that the NNPC is in debt. What I'm so fascinated about is that we have a lying, deceiving NNPC and nobody's head is rolling there.
Again, the Minister of Petroleum, what is his role in all of this? Because we seem to forget that in the grand scheme of things, the President is the Minister of Petroleum.
But you have a PIA, which has removed this from government direct control. The fact that it's a Minister of Petroleum, there are other issues it deals with. Minister of Petroleum is not only the business of supplying petrol.
Hold on.
Petrol supply is a small part of the minister's responsibility.
Yeah.
The NNPC that's supposed to give us petrol, that told us a lie, that the reason we have scarcity is because of logistical reasons.
They are the ones that should be.
So they keep telling us stories, and in a country like this, we still keep that organization.
Right,
so we have an organization that should be, they declared a profit of 3 trillion.
Yeah.
But now they are in debt, dollar debt. You have to pay it. And you will not tell Nigerians to bear that burden because you told us that you will have not subsidized this petroleum product and that there was enough product in the system. We're only having logistical challenges.
They said it wasn't
So the media should not promote their own line of conversation. Very convoluted stories they are telling. They're using technicalities.
All right,
this is a country that has knowledge.
We need to speak with John, who's calling from Kogi, I believe. Good morning, John.
Yeah, good morning. Good morning.
Morning, go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody in the studio. Please, I want to talk on Nyesom Wike. Nyesom Wike is no longer a River State issues. Wike outburst in the River State last Saturday. I think by this time, if we have a serious government, we should have been invited for interrogations. We are talking crisis in about 30 states of Nigeria. We are not talking River State alone. You say go to court crisis in any of PDP states that support, who want to support Fubara. And we have 30 states in Nigeria that cut across all the civil political shows. And we are talking as if it's nothing. And we know what's happening in River State now. There are a lot of crises. And in Nigeria, see, I think a Wike should be called to order. I think he cannot use the Minister of FCC to cause crisis in Nigeria. It's beyond PDP now. It's not about, the federal government must sit up and invite Wike. Because
John.
Wike is trying to cause crisis beyond PDP now.
All right, thank you, John. All right, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I feel like we should be very serious as a country. We should not allow a company that the country owns for that management of that company to take all of us for a ride. We should not, this is not a sensational, this is not news that we should just talk about on national newspapers, do newspaper reviews and let it lie low. We must look at the NNPC eyeball to eyeball and ask, why the deceit? Why are you taking this country for a ride? You can't overdo this.
Yeah, but would you expect the National Assembly to ask those questions?
Not only ask, Mele Kyari has to resign. He has to resign immediately because he's deceived the citizens. He's deceived the country.
He has to, but will he resign?
He has to. If he doesn't want to, he has to be forced to resign.
All right, let's talk about another story that is, allegedly, they are alleging that they have asked the president to step down. And that's on the front page, still on the Punch. The bottom story, bottom left, it says, hunger protest, federal government arraigns activists, British ally today. Now, the details of the story, we have that the federal government is set to arraign some of the organizers of the recent End Bad Governance protest today, that's Monday, before the Federal High Court in Abuja. Then, in the 6 counts filed by the Inspector General of Police, the federal government also named the British citizen Andrew Wine, aka Andrew Povich, a defendant. What are they accusing them of? They're accusing them of treason, destabilizing the country, intimidating the president, and destroying the NCC in Kano, among others. We know that the punishment for treason is death. So the worries are that we are in a democratic government where people should be allowed to come out and state their grievances with the government. They should be allowed to protest. According to what's currently, or what should be, protesting is not a criminal offense, but now they've been accused of treason. And after today's judgment, we'll then find out, what direction this will be taken. But what are your thoughts about this?
On the surface of it, you are right. When you look at it superficially, you are right to protest, you are a journalist, you are right to write, but you see people, you see the same all over the world, you see people talking about spies. You see people using their position for subversive purposes that are inimical to the progress and peace of a state. So if the government have enough evidence, then they will win. Otherwise, it's frivolous, will be thrown out. We've seen several of such accusations in the past that never stood the test of time. So they can make accusation. In fact, you can actually say somebody is an armed robber, take him to court. You've got to adduce enough evidence to be able to convict the person. We live in a country, our country is not running normally. And so you see all manner of things. There is a possibility that people who were protesting genuinely have also been joined by those who have ulterior motives. And so the protesters have good intentions, but a lot of other things also happen around the protest. It's the government duty to find out who did what and what happened. When you look at the way the protest turned out in the north, it was a surprise to those other ones in the south. They didn't expect that we were protesting, and some other people thought that, okay, they should be able to fly Russian flag within the protest that they thought was a peaceful expression of a disgust of the citizens. Yeah.
But we haven't even spoken about allegations of the government that allegedly shot live ammunition rounds into the crowd of protesters. Government that was, that was alleged to have hurt protesters, where people were injured as a result of the protest.
It could not be the policy of government totally to shoot at protesters. It could be the pressure placed on the security personnel, and it couldn't handle it. Government cannot have a policy to shoot the citizens that are protesting.
The point is, the government doesn't seem to be putting a lot of effort in investigating the loss of lives that occurred during the protests. If they, happened, as a result of bullets from the Nigerian police force. Alexander, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead. Go ahead from Lagos.
Okay. First, I want to say this. You see, the Nigeria of today, in fact, a lot of us are grieving over Nigeria.
Yeah, you get the point.
Yeah, I get your point. But you see, sometimes when you say federal government, this incident could have happened in Kano. And there must be local reports, the issues will be dealt with internally, and those who are responsible will be asking questions at very local level. Maybe they've not bubbled up yet. There's no way a death will occur and it will be swept under the carpet so completely. Something should be going on.
Okay, I'm really glad you added it so completely, because we have a reference. Many people make reference to the October 2020 killings and how initially the government gaslit people to say that didn't happen.
Which one is this one?
The October NSAS protest.
Well, NSAS protest
manipulated, it was Photoshop.
The government seems to have one point that there's no one who has come forward. That is, if there are deaths, government's argument that says no one has come forward to even make a claim. Even when there was an award of money, nobody came to claim it. You see, this is just where, when I read that, I said, okay, are you saying no one has come to say, I lost someone and I deserve this compensation.
There have been people. Anyway, let's quickly take this call.
That's what they said.
Coming in. Please go ahead. Good morning. Thanks for calling.
Hello.
Hello, please go ahead. Thanks for calling.
This is Dr. Philip Dede from Kano.
All right, Dr. Philip, thank you very much for calling. Please go ahead with your comment.
Thank all of you on board for organizing a program like this. And I equally suggest that one phone line will not be enough for this type of program. A lot of Nigerians want to express their mind, but we don't have any forum to express our mind. And it's like what is going on in the federal and state level, a lot of things are happening, people are not aware. And like the government is doing what they want to do without knowing what the common man is facing. First of all, I've said it December 28th, to December 18th. I said a lot of things, that this government is the most corrupt government. And not only that, a society where encourage corruption, you can't expect any growth. And again, I said it long ago too, this fuel matter is a scam. They should come up and tell us what is happening. We can't be talking one thing and cannot solve that thing. And the common man is suffering every day. Just imagine the cost of transport. People bear. And they say you increase the salary, and then they look at the cost of things there. That is number one. Number two, again, coming to what they are doing, Wike matter, I've said it long ago, December 18, 2022. I said Wike will give problem to River State. And not only that, 2027 again, this same man will come and give the ruling party, that is, he will have some problem with Tinubu himself. Watch out. And what I'm trying to say is like you have a house. You have a house, and then they give you a key to the house. You have not gone there to look at the structure of the house. When you get there, there are some structures you don't like. You remove them, and you put your own to your taste. But the government do not do so. They just go there and start to announce. And the Nigerians were always following who is head. And whatever comes out from the head mount matters a lot. From that day, the announcement was made of removing subsidy. Things are no longer working the way they're supposed to work. Prices of things are going out even up to today. And look at the line of fuel there. Let the government should come out and tell us what is the problem. Because a known problem is a solved problem if we follow it.
All right, thank you, Philip.
So me.
All right, we have to let that go there. Thanks for calling and thanks for sharing your thoughts with us. Nigerians, obviously, really, really frustrated with the way that things are currently being handled. You were speaking about the NSAS. I think that's a conversation that would almost never end until we have actual truth. What do you think would happen between now and the end of the year with regards to this petrol scarcity?
Well, I see if in terms of the supply inefficiencies, the fact that they owed in dollars, and so suppliers from outside will not supply them. So they'll turn to Dangote, they'll turn to the local refineries so that they can buy in Naira and no longer be in debt in dollars. And so then every other person also will be able to buy and supply the market. So there will be some semblance of stability of supply locally, especially when we trade in Naira.
Yeah.
And so the only problem will be accessing dollars to be able to fix any dollar requirement in the background operation of the oil industry. But at the front end, Dangote says it's ready, so if he has product,
I was going to ask.
So there will be efficiency of supply, but not of price. Nigerians are expecting petroleum prices to be lower with local refineries. And the media should educate the people it's not going to happen. You're going to have higher prices, but you have stability of supply, you have integrity of product. Products will be available locally. So this is what I think. So I am hoping that this is a good time for Dangote, the fact that NNPC is owing and suppliers will cut supplies.
Right.
And so
without the vilifying of Dangote that has happened in the past few weeks, or the drama he's had to face,
Dangote's problem is not local. Dangote's problem is a huge global problem. Dangote is trying to intervene in a market that is just like the airpiece came in and all the airlines got angry. The same thing. Dangote is coming in. His enemies are not local, but they use local men to fight him.
All right, let's quickly take the stuff from Alexander. Good morning, Alexander. Thank you for calling.
Good morning.
All right, please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to quickly say this. First of all, I want to thank you for this wonderful program that you guys are holding online. You see, Nigeria has a very massive problem. Number one, why would a governor that have, like a person like Wike, who have spent 8 years as governor of Rivers State, Wike has spent 8 years as Rivers State governor, and he's gone. Now, I don't understand why would somebody who has served these people come back to start meddling into another governor's affair. Why is it that there is no law that can the Senate or whatever can put on ground that, oh, any governor that has served, give way, except you are invited to that state house, you have no business there. Because we keep threatening that he will run down some states because they are supporting a sitting governor. It's unheard of in any country. If Nigeria was a country that is on the right path, I don't think Wike should be allowed to be saying these rubbish. He should be caged. And again, coming to NNPC or whatever they call that organization, businesses are crumbling because people have nowhere to run their business. Imagine, today now we call off work because our pool cars cannot move. We don't have square. Where are we heading to? What kind of legacy are we leaving behind for the upcoming ones? So they become touts when they become governors or senators or councillors or whatever. I don't understand. You're you don't want people to live life again?
We have to go, Alexander. Thank you very much for calling. We want to quickly take this final story before we wrap up the conversation. We've been talking about fuel scarcity. And if you notice, there's something that's very peculiar. When we start to experience fuel scarcity, it almost seems like simultaneously the discos start to mess up, to put it lightly. You know, we then start to hear of people complaining about blackouts. We're seeing here on the Punch, power generation down by 1,400 megawatts as discos reject allocations. And then if you move away from the Punch to this Nigerian newspaper, the big story there, federal government to invest $800 million in power sector. Minister Adelabu says generation capacity will increase to 6,000 megawatts in December.
I mean, it's the same government that has been promising Port Harcourt refinery will start in since
August. They've shifted like 6 times now. They lament 59% of industries in Nigeria are off-grid due to epileptic supply. Do you have faith in the Minister of Power?
Faith. I have faith not in the Minister of Power. I have faith in the fact that things can work if we are honest and are ready to bite the bullet. Nigerians as a country, we must know that what Tinubu has thrown down for Nigeria by removal of subsidy and the floating of the currency calls only for one thing: efficiency, hard work, and sacrifice. Without these three, Nigeria cannot overcome the pressures that this will put on the nation. When you float your currency, it means that it's trading market prices, meaning that whatever is sold abroad, your currency will fight to survive in an open market. Before, you have to keep supporting the currency to survive, fixing it and finding dollar to support it. So now it's thrown it open, and we are still trying one way or the other to avoid the hard work that is required. So that's why you see government or agencies are lying. They are telling lies because they are not working hard enough to meet set timelines. People are lax, and no one is being punished for not meeting set deadlines. Yeah. Because why do you tell us August, April, and no one is doing anything about the person who set the timeline? Then he said, tomorrow we said September, and he will fail. He will keep his office.
So just push it to
and then he will retire very nicely. And another guy will come and blame
Continue
him.
From where he started, exactly.
It's a problem. And you know, Nigeria is a country of cover-up. If you go to the ministries, they cover each other up. No one is telling the truth. Nobody wants to expose anybody. Everybody is a nice guy.
If you expose anything, they will probably
victimize you immediately. So this is what we are dealing with, and we're seeing it it's becoming, we are not the feeling, we are victims of all these things.
Yeah. I mean, very, very well said, you know, and I've repeatedly said that there's almost no punishment for incompetence.
No.
And that's why people, like you've said, you know, continue to make promises, fail, extend, you know, timelines, push it further, fail once again. Because I remember that, you know, I think it was Miller Carey that promised 2019 or 2020 that Port Harcourt will be up and running. We're currently 2024. We've continued to move on month after month. There's still no punishment or, you know, for incompetence, you know, on the highest level. But anyway, Theophilus Sakatuba, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Interesting speaking with you. All right. We of course continue the conversations this morning. Stay with us. Which Way Nigeria comes up right next. Now, we're just weeks away from a crucial election in Edo State, an election that will determine the trajectory of the people of Edo State for the next 4 years, with many issues on the table, making it a very, very important election. But now, currently there are 3 frontline candidates, the Olumide Akpata of the Labour Party, Aso Ighodalo of the PDP, and of course, Monday Okpebholo of the APC. One thing that I have spoken about in the past is this seeming method of operation where the handlers of former President Buhari and current President Bola Tinubu thought it was wise back then and even now to somehow shield their principal from media scrutiny. President Buhari back then ran 8 years with barely any media chats or press interviews to answer burning questions about where he was taking Nigeria. Our current president seems to be following the exact same script. Since he became president, he has also barely granted any media chats or made himself available to be interviewed by journalists. Now, in a sane society, this should be a very red flag, and history has shown that it never ends well. Now, one of the candidates for the Edo State election seems to be running his whole campaign through third-party voices, having other people go to radio and television interviews to speak on his behalf. Even though he has been invited more than a few times, he just somehow has not been able to get himself to honor any of these interviews to share with the wider public, but most importantly with the people of Edo State, his good plans for the state if elected as governor. He seems to be running away from the media. One of the main things that will connect him with the people, the media, one of the main things that will connect him with the people that he claims to want to serve. Now, to be clear, interviews, public conversations, engagements, media chat, these are not just formalities. They are the foundation of any healthy democracy because not only does it give the people a chance to hear you break down your plans bit by bit for them, it also shows that you value the people whose votes you seek and you are open to public scrutiny as a leader. But this candidate, the one who wants to lead and continues to avoid every opportunity to speak directly to the people or to be interviewed, and I think it's very, very strange. It tells a very important point that that very candidate doesn't respect you, the voter, enough, and he's audacious enough to believe that he can run a whole campaign without press interviews and still have you vote for him. That's what it tells. That he believes within himself that he can run a whole campaign by simply putting up campaign posters without being interviewed, without putting himself through scrutiny, without, journalists, asking him tough questions. He believes that he can run that whole campaign and still get your votes and win. It's baffling. Because how else does he hope to earn the trust of Edo people without speaking to them, without answering tough questions? I have always argued that a person who doesn't make himself available for media chats or scrutiny doesn't deserve one single vote, because he or she hasn't shown that they are open to being held accountable or knowledgeable enough about their plans. Elections are beyond just promises or campaign posters or speeches at those mega rallies. They're about dialogue, they're about engagement and accountability. So for a candidate to consistently dodge interviews, it's not just bad optics, it is bad for democracy. And so to those around that particular candidate, how do you hope to win the hearts and votes of the millions of Edo indigents when your candidate refuses to grant media interviews? It is again my opinion that any candidate in an election in Nigeria that isn't open to interviews and dialogue with the media, with those who he or she hopes to lead, isn't deserving of one single vote. Good morning, Nigerians.
NNPC seems to be playing the games of, I mean, they will call it two truths and a lie, but in this case, it's two lies and a truth. After fuel queues have persisted around the nation for weeks, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, NNPC, has confirmed that its outstanding debts to international oil traders are a major factor in the ongoing fuel scarcity across the country.
Now, this comes after the NNPC denied oil traders a $6.8 billion fuel subsidy debt, stating that fuel scarcity was due to logistics issues, if you remember just a few weeks ago. This revelation also suggests that the oil company may no longer be able to maintain the fixed price of petrol following the removal of subsidy, thereby hinting that the company might rely on government intervention, possibly in the form of, again, a subsidy to navigate this financial crisis. If you remember the conversations from the past, they called it a shortfall, not necessarily subsidy. And we've had multiple analysts, stop by here to try to analyze these things and, put things in perspective and, help people understand, whether we're still paying subsidy or not, and if it is not going to the oil marketers. I think that was the excuse that I heard, that, we're no longer paying, billions of Nigeria's money to these oil marketers and these people who are, robbing Nigeria of its commonwealth, through subsidy and all of that. But instead, we're, now paying the NNPC, or the NNPC is now having to then subsidize the, the cost of petrol for the average Nigerian. But the moral of the whole story, at the end of all the English that has, been spoken, we still end up, with the idea that a balance is being paid somewhere to cut down the cost of petrol for the average Nigerian. And that last is still subsidy. And then, so what does that mean again for Nigerians in the nearest future with regards to the availability of products? The queues have been crazy for the past 2 months. Nigerians have had to go through the degrading, where they've had to live a degrading lifestyle because you have money to purchase. I mean, the money is not what it should be because it's lost its value because you're buying more. But Nigerians would have to go and queue in long fuel queues. The fuel that you're buying, you're already spending it in the queues. The rest of those, the rest of the citizens who are not queuing for fuel will have to queue in the traffic because there's traffic caused by the fuel scarcity. And it seems that this will be a reality for a very long time. I wonder what the role of Dangote refinery would be in all of this, because now they said they're set for rollout, and I wonder if that will make any impact. Our last guest said it will not affect the price, but maybe the availability of products. Yes, maybe it will cause stable products, stable availability of products, but not stability in terms of price, and that we shouldn't expect the price to come down. So there's so many gray areas regarding this issue with the NNPC, and we're hoping that we can have a clearer and a more honest standpoint from the NNPC. Mele Kyari needs to speak. He needs to address Nigerians with utmost honesty. I mean, this just felt, the press release was very... Yeah. It is coming from the,
the communications team, of course, which is
the NNPC.
Speaking on his behalf. But he needs to have maybe some sort of a press address, a one-on-one with the press, and because you are the sole importers of PMS. Nigerians are dependent on you. Businesses, individuals, you can crumble the economy if you're not, if things aren't working well with you. So Nigerians deserve an answer.
But just like Theophilus Akatuba said, the main problem really is that there's no punishment for incompetence. And if we've had a situation where someone who's been in charge has most people would say has failed in the deliverables that were set before him, and we do not fire that person or suspend that person and have somebody else take over to run those affairs, then we continue to reward incompetence. That's really what it is, and we would almost never see an improvement because Mele Kyari and those who are in charge of that sector have not shown that they can improve the sector. They've not shown that they will be able to make life better and easier for Nigeria concerning their petroleum sector. So. I mean, the ball is really in their court, and we would see how things turn out. There's also the stories about the NNPC wanting to hand over Warrior and Kaduna refineries to private operators, which of course would expand on further, as time passes, sometime during this week. I did see somebody who, in his analysis, said that it was a completely futile effort. You know, it was dead on arrival, mostly because he doesn't think that there's the infrastructure that would be required to run the Warri and the Kaduna refinery, you know, well enough. There's some pipelines that he mentioned. You know, I'm not a petroleum expert, so I wouldn't know. There's some pipelines that he mentioned that, you know, currently lead, or, you know, take crude to the Warri refinery and take crude to the Kaduna refinery that they haven't, you know, functioned in at least 10, 15, maybe 20 years, and that it will be difficult for anybody to make that kind of commitment, the private operator to make kind of commitment when those very, very basic infrastructure don't seem to be working. But that was his analysis. If you remember also, Atiku Abubakar was called out during the campaign for wanting to trade off Nigeria's, you know, refineries to his friends, as they used to say back then. But eventually we seem to be wanting to do the exact same thing, which is, of course, privatize his refineries.
Which is what Atiku Abubakar now says he regrets, because the vision of privatizing that he had for, you know, the NNPC isn't, you know, for the oil sector is not what exactly is being played out. But there's a lot of drama and politics surrounding it. We hope to be able to dissect these conversations further during the week. So we'd like to ask that you please join us again, same time tomorrow and all through the week from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you again tomorrow. I am Olive, MOD.
And I am Osaogi Ogbawa. See you tomorrow.